Alrighty, so just kind of give a little bit of background about what does financial crimes entail and what do you do?
Sure, absolutely. So I specialize in investigating
Mm.
cryptocurrency, but of course there's numerous forms of fraud schemes that we investigate in the unit in totality, and they could be romance or investment schemes or Bitcoin ATM fraud. But again, we investigate numerous types of fraud schemes in the unit.
Got you. And so, the biggest thing that what would you say, I guess, is the biggest thing that you've seen come across your desk in terms of different financial scams?
Sure, absolutely. So lately, what I've been seeing is that there's been an increase in cryptocurrency related scams. And this year alone, we've surpassed $10 million in victim losses alone, with approximately 62 cases. And month over month, we're seeing an increase in crypto related scams. So.
We recently saw legislation that passed back in May, that House Bill 2387, that now gives more stricter regulations when it comes to these crypto ATMs. What does this regulation, what does this new legislation mean for so many consumers in our area?
Sure. First and foremost, it's a great start. I think this is a fantastic bill and a great place to start. It affords first-time customers some refund protections under Bitcoin ATM. And under this bill, you have to meet certain criterion to be eligible for these refunds. But a lot of these Bitcoin ATM companies are offering at least transactional refunds. So if you're able to reach out to them with a police report within 30 days and you're a first-time victim, at least perhaps you're able to get a partial or transactional refund from the Bitcoin ATM itself.
Mhm. So it has to be 30 days. So those people who have, maybe been a victim of a scam maybe 90 days ago, even longer, they're unfortunately not able to.
Yes, so I'm assigned all the cryptocurrency related reports, and we encourage if you are the victim of a cryptocurrency related fraud scheme to report it to the police and IC3. I can take a look into where the money goes and see if I'm able to basically work with an exchange for any type of seizures regarding cryptocurrency or assets.
Yeah. When you take on a lot of these cases and these people come to you to file a police report, what's typically what do they say? What's the emotion?
Yeah, I mean, they're frustrated and they can't believe that it happened to them. But what they do is, to start, they provide us with transactional information, such as a transaction hash or a wallet that they made the deposit into. And from there, I could plug that into tracing software or various investigative databases and see where the money went and if I'm able to get that money back. But people are very frustrated right now with all of the cryptocurrency related fraud schemes going on.
Yeah. I cannot help but think about, the cases that you do receive. But let's take a moment just to think about the people who don't come forward, because there's that feeling, that sense of embarrassment. They can't believe that it happened to them, so they don't want to say anything. But I really want you to stress the importance of why people need to come forward.
Yeah, absolutely. It needs to be documented because there are times in casework where we're able to tie together certain wallets that are associated suspect wallets. And if we're able to have that information, it allows us to dig a little bit deeper. And then sometimes, if we are able to get money back, perhaps the victim that thought they didn't need to report it could potentially get some money back as well.
Yeah.
So.
Will you break down a little bit about, some of the cases that you've seen and how this actually works? How do these scammers target people to get them to, how does this work?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many various forms of outreach and social engineering that these scammers do. I mean, it could be on social media, or it could be through a text message or email. It could start out as, hey, you have a warrant, or you need to pay a traffic ticket. And then it turns into perhaps, you're at a Bitcoin ATM trying to deposit money for what you think is some related fine. Do not do that. Do not make any deposit at a Bitcoin ATM if you haven't met the person and you're unsure of everything. That is, government agencies are not accepting cryptocurrency as a form of payment or fine. So do not do that. Other various forms of fraud schemes can stem from romance schemes to investment schemes, and typically those are a little more complex than the Bitcoin ATM Bitcoin ATM schemes. Um, at that point in time, people basically open up like a exchange account such as Coinbase or some of the other bigger ones. I'm not just saying Coinbase in general, but a bigger exchange account where they start taking money and transferring it to suspect wallets.
Mhm. Do the scammers typically just flat out say that these are crypto? Because if we, talk in terms of our elderly community, our senior community, they're not really familiar with this, right? And I think is that kind of the objective? They know.
Yeah, and the scammers are so good that they guide the elderly people through the transaction. They tell them the store to go to, they give them the QR code to scan. They basically prompt them through all the transactions. They have a playbook essentially of how to get people to deposit money into the account, even with little to no knowledge.
The other thing you mentioned to me before was the key is also keeping them on the phone when this happens. Talk about that.
Correct. Yeah. And I think the reason why a lot of these scams work is because the scammers keep them on the phone. They know if they hang up the phone, they're going to call someone or have questions. And they know that the key or one of the main keys is keeping the victim on the phone and coaching them through it. I've had numerous cases where they were on the phone from the inception at home. They go to the bank, they're still on the phone coaching them through what to tell a teller taking out the cash and then telling them where to go. And this could be an hour-long phone call that they're on the phone with these scammers and they're coaching them through each step to get them to the Bitcoin ATM.
And then these they flat out say that these are cryptocurrency ATMs. It's not disguised as just a regular ATM in many
Correct.
cases. Okay,
Correct.
alrighty. Um, and in many cases, you've seen, I mean, just flat out, how many cases have you been able to kind of roughly recover, get something back?
Yeah, it's extremely rare, unfortunately. Only a handful of cases where I was able to serve a seizure search warrant and recover some money back from victims. Unfortunately, right now, it depends on the exchanges that it goes to, and a lot of them are overseas, and they do not have to comply with U.S. legal demands. If they do so, it's voluntary. So it makes it very challenging from an investigative standpoint. I could tell the victim where their money is or where their money went, but if the exchange doesn't cooperate, then I'm unable to get that money back.
Yeah, do you think with what we're seeing now in this day and age, that that will change? That has to come from US regulations working, that has to come from federal.
Yeah, absolutely. So, in one aspect, I am hoping that there will be more cooperation, even with overseas exchanges. I think that would be great, from a transparency aspect as well. But yes, one of the many things that some federal law can do is regulate some of these things and have some form of cooperation with exchanges. So.
Mhm. Um, you mentioned where these ATMs are, where they're pointed out in the community. Um, and there's been instances, there's something new that maybe about 6 months ago that Scottsdale police started rolling out when you put wherever these ATMs are. Talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So essentially, we canvassed the city and where Bitcoin ATMs were at, and we were able to put out with basically the shop owner or the manager's permission, a simple one-page stop if you don't know what you're doing, you're being scammed, and to call this number. And so we're able to put out warning notices next to the Bitcoin ATM to help kind of curtail some of the fraud or potential fraud that could occur there. So this was approximately about 6 months ago, and then Unfortunately, there's been new Bitcoin ATMs popping up, and this will be something that will have to be continuously addressed going forward. But we put out and we try to put out these warning signs that says, "Stop! You're being scammed. If you don't know the person you're talking to, do not make the deposit into the Bitcoin ATM." So,
Mm, okay, and you'll see those, just kind of mainly at all of the ATMs.
correct. And I know other cities have followed similar type protocols where they've started doing that as well. So.
In that legislation, there's also another stipulation about the daily transaction limits in that. Can you explain that a little bit?
Sure. So under the legislation, there are certain criterion that has to be met for a full refund. I believe that Bitcoin ATM companies would perhaps cooperate with victims if they don't meet the specific criterion for a full refund. But for a full refund, it's essentially you have to have a police report, be reported within 30 days, be a first time customer. And so there's various criterion that has to be met for a full-time refund. So you have to act fast if you were the victim of a fraud scheme. And as you alluded to earlier, it is important to come forward because perhaps you could be a potential individual that would receive a refund from these companies.
What I was thinking is like you've been in law enforcement
Yeah,
18 years. You've just seen the changes, but
yeah,
you never just
yes,
really
exactly.
thought
That's
this is
yeah,
what law enforcement would have to
yeah, yeah.
actually deal with.
Yeah, so I'm very thankful to be investigating cryptocurrency, and things in the fraud world are constantly changing. So we've seen it go from gift card scams to now
Mm,
cryptocurrency related scams. And it's a specialized type of training that you have to have. But I'm very thankful that I'm able to investigate these cases for the victims because even if I'm not able to get the money back, a lot of them like to have the closure of knowing where the money went or at least someone looking into it. So I don't see this stopping anytime soon. I only see it increasing. And so we encourage people to report it to police as soon as possible.